It began with a single email, 8 quiet lines that shattered a lifetime of devotion. After 30 years of sacrifice, a mother opened her laptop to find her daughter's wedding invitation replaced by a livestream link. No phone call, no explanation, just it will be the same. But that morning in Portland, beneath the soft hum of an aging refrigerator and the bitter scent of cold coffee, something inside Helen Reynolds awakened. She would no longer beg to belong. She would show them the cost of forgetting who taught them love. My daughter just emailed me not to come to her wedding, after I wired her $30,000. That is the first thing you need to understand, not the weather. Not who I am, not how we got here. That email is the first blow. I was standing alone in my kitchen when it arrived. The house was quiet in that particular way. An empty house is quiet, where the refrigerator hum sounds louder than a human voice. The overhead light was off. Only the laptop on the table was lit, washing the room in a pale blue glow. My coffee sat untouched beside it, already cold. I'd been meaning to warm it. I never did. The sender was my daughter, Rachel Reynolds. No subject line, only her name. I remember feeling something close to warmth in that first half second. I thought it might be a quick update about flowers or seating plans or the tasting menu she and Ethan had argued about for weeks. I thought maybe she was going to tell me she had picked a dress. I thought maybe she wanted to ask my opinion. I clicked. Her message was short. After talking with Ethan's parents, we think it is best to keep the ceremony intimate. You can join through the live stream. It will be the same. We already set it up for you. I promise you will not miss anything. Then a final line. 3 letters. An easy laugh she has used since she was 13, whenever she wanted to soften a sting. LOL. For several long seconds I could not feel my hands. I read it again. And again, and again. My eyes moved, but the rest of me did not. I did not throw the mug. I did not gasp. I did not cry. My face did not even move. It felt like dropping through ice and landing in still water beneath it. You can join through the live stream. It will be the same. I am 58 years old. My name is Helen Reynolds. I am a senior accounting manager for a mid-sized property management firm in Portland, Oregon. I am a widow. I am the mother of 2 children, Rachel, who is 31, and Evan, who is 28. I have spent half my life making sure neither of them ever had to wonder if the ground under their feet would hold. And my daughter just told me that. For her wedding, my presence could be replaced by a link. I stared at the screen until the light from it made my eyes ache. There is a word she used that would not stop echoing in my head. Intimate. After talking with Ethan's parents, we think it is best to keep the ceremony intimate. Intimate for whom? I swallowed. The kitchen felt smaller. I had already paid the first $30,000. The deposit on the venue in Napa Valley. The photographer she said she had loved since college. The florist who apparently had a wait list like a surgeon. I paid because I remember how money humiliates you when you are young and in love and trying to make something beautiful look effortless. I remember that humiliation very well. I swore my daughter would never feel it. And there was more. There was another wire transfer queued at my bank. $50,000 more. The balance, the food, the rentals. The final payment to secure the estate the Prestons insisted on. Because as Rachel told me in a careful voice, Ethan's parents really care about presentation. Presentation. I leaned back in my chair and let the words sit in my mouth like blood. My phone, face down on the table, buzzed once. I did not touch it. I kept looking at the email. We think it is best. We, not I want, not mother. This is hard for me. We. As if I had become a line item to be managed by committee. I wish I could tell you I am blameless. It would be easy to paint myself as the perfect mother and my daughter as ungrateful. People like stories that simple. But nothing about us is simple. In fairness, I did not make a graceful first impression. The first time I sat across from Ethan's parents, at a little engagement dinner Rachel organized, I felt something old and sharp rise in me, something I do not like admitting exists. His mother, Dana Preston, wore pearls and a pale silk blouse, the kind of blouse that does not wrinkle in motion. His father talked about wine regions as if they were bloodlines. The restaurant had more glass than walls. Rachel kept smoothing her hair behind her ear, nervous and eager. I remember smiling. I remember saying, in a voice that was lighter than I felt. Well, it must be nice to be able to afford a Napa Valley wedding. The table went quiet for a beat too long. Rachel's face changed. It was a flicker, but I saw it. That embarrassed look she used to have when she was 16, and I showed up to a school event in the same black slacks I wore to work because I could not afford a different pair. I had not seen that look in years. Seeing it again tasted like rust. She squeezed my hand under the table and whispered, "Mom, please." I told myself I had only been teasing. I told myself I had earned the right to say it. But if I am honest, it was pride. It was defensiveness. It was me walking into a room where I felt judged and drawing blood first. Now, sitting alone in my quiet kitchen, I felt that memory press down on me. I could hear Dana's voice from that dinner, polite and cold. We do value a certain standard of celebration. It reflects on the families. She had smiled when she said families, but it felt like a gate closing. I exhaled, slow. I understood something then that I had been refusing to say out loud. To them, I am not part of the families. I clicked reply. My fingers hovered over the keys. For a long time, nothing happened. Every word I drafted sounded either desperate or angry, and I refused to give them either. I erased the draft and replaced it with 4 plain words. Sure. Enjoy your day. I sent it. Did not send sweetheart. I did not send I love you. I did not beg to be included in my only daughter's wedding. I sent consent. Cold, measured consent. I knew those 4 words would ring louder in her head than any angry message I could have written. Then I closed the laptop. The kitchen went dim again without the light from the screen. For a moment, I just sat there in the half-dark, listening to the house breathe around me, the sound of the heater, the faint ticking of the clock above the sink. The quiet was almost physical. I felt it settle across my shoulders like a heavy shawl. And then I stood up. I carried the laptop into the living room and set it on the coffee table. I opened the banking tab I had left open earlier that morning, the one labeled Wire Transfer Authorization. My name. The wedding venue's corporate account. Amount, $50,000. Status, pending, not yet released. $50,000, on top of the $30,000 I had already given. $80,000 total. For a celebration I was now apparently too disruptive, too unpresentable, too inconvenient to attend in person. I stared at the number. A thought came to me so quietly, I almost did not recognize it as my own. If they think I am not good enough to sit in the room, maybe they are not entitled to sit on my money. I felt something shift inside me. It was not anger. It was not grief. It was something steadier, a kind of stillness with an edge. My hand moved to the trackpad. The cursor hovered over the button that would cancel the scheduled transfer. For the first time that morning, my heart began to beat faster. I clicked the tab to expand the form. "Are you sure you want to revoke this authorization?" On the screen, the question waited. In the room, the silence waited. I took a breath, then I leaned in. The next morning, the world pretended nothing had happened. The sun came up over Portland like it always did, gray and pale through a thin layer of cloud. Traffic rolled past my street. Somewhere down the block, a garbage truck hissed and groaned. Inside my house, the heater clicked on, then off. The ordinary rhythm of an ordinary weekday. It felt almost insulting. I barely slept. My body had done that cruel trick it does in times of crisis, shutting down for an hour at a time, then snapping awake in a panic as if I had forgotten to turn off the stove. Every time I opened my eyes in the dark, I saw the same sentence. "You can join through the live stream. It will be the same." By 8:30, I was dressed for work, hair pulled back, makeup neat. I chose a navy blazer with clean shoulders and a cream blouse with no wrinkles. I could not control my daughter. I could control my collar. On the drive in, I turned off the radio. Silence was easier than music. If I listened to music, I knew I would start crying, and I did not want to cry in daylight. When I walked into the office, I held myself upright. I have worked there for years. I know who watches. You learn this, as a woman in an office. You learn that walking in with puffy eyes becomes part of a story you did not authorize anyone to tell. I sat down at my desk. I opened my computer. I tried to breathe through the tightness in my chest. A few minutes later, a paper cup appeared beside my keyboard. A latte, light foam, medium, 2 pumps hazelnut. A voice said gently, "You will tell me if I got it wrong." I did not have to look up to know it was Ben. Ben Novak has been my director for 7 years. He is one of those men everyone underestimates until they pay attention. Not loud, not intrusive, not the kind of boss who needs you to tell him he is a good person. He just notices. He notices birthdays. He notices when someone's mother is in the hospital. He notices when you have been quiet for more than 2 days. "Thank you," I said. He leaned one hand on the side of my desk, studying my face the way a careful person studies a hairline crack in good china. "You look like you have been awake all night," he said softly. "I slept. I lied." He nodded once. He did not ask. That was the kindness. After he walked away, I wrapped my hands around the cup. The warmth of it stung. I did not realize how cold my fingers were until that moment. Did I raise her wrong? The thought arrived without permission, like a voice I did not want but could not shut off. Did I raise her wrong? I had raised Rachel to be strong. I had raised her to refuse to be ashamed of where she came from. I had raised her to ask for what she wanted. I had worked double shifts. I had eaten cereal for dinner so they could have piano lessons and decent shoes. I had told myself, one day this will all come back in the form of love. But love has to be taught. Respect has to be taught. Boundaries have to be taught. Had I taught her everything except how to love me back? My email pinged. I knew it was her before I even turned the screen. Subject line, "Please answer." I inhaled, held my breath for a moment, and clicked. "Mom, please do not make this harder than it has to be. Ethan's parents are worried you might feel uncomfortable around their guests. They are just trying to keep things smooth. We are not saying you cannot be part of it. You can join from home. We already have the link. I do not understand why you are being like this. I read it once. I read it twice." The word that caught in my chest like a hook was not harder. It was uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. Not unwanted. Not embarrassing. Uncomfortable. Such a polite word. Such a gentle cut. As if she was helping me by excluding me. As if this was kindness. You might feel uncomfortable around their guests. Closed my eyes and saw Dana Preston's face. I could hear her voice as clearly as if she were sitting across from me again in that restaurant with the glass walls and the white tablecloths. I could smell the citrus oil from the lemon twist in her drink. I could see the way she looked at me, not directly, but past me, like I was a reflection in a window she had not meant to catch. "We appreciate your contribution, Helen," Dana had said, with a smile that never reached her eyes. "Classy venues deserve classy guests. Classy venues deserve classy guests." At that table, I had smiled back. I had pretended I did not hear what she was saying. I had let Rachel squeeze my hand under the table, her nails digging into my skin in a silent plea. "Do not make a scene, Mom. Please. Please." But I heard it. I heard it again now, in Rachel's email. I heard Dana's voice behind Rachel's words. I heard the Prestons speaking through my own daughter's mouth. Uncomfortable. I opened a new message. My hands were shaking so badly that the first few letters came out wrong. Rachel. I paused. I erased her name. I started again. Sweetheart. I paused again. I erased sweetheart, too. Then I began to type. "I will send the payment today. Please just let me be there." I stopped. I stared at the sentence. It did not even look like my voice. It looked like a ransom note I had written against myself. Please just let me be there. My throat burned. I felt it before I felt the tears, the pressure of it, the heat, the humiliation of it. Like I was kneeling on a floor I helped pay for. I had always told myself I was strong. I had told myself I was nobody's beggar. But there it was, in black and white. I was offering to buy a seat at my own daughter's wedding. I was pleading for permission to witness the vows of the child I carried through fever and night terrors and scholarship applications and first heartbreaks. My vision blurred. I watched one tear fall straight down and land on the keyboard, then sink into the space between the G and the H. If I have to buy a seat at my own daughter's wedding, maybe I already lost her. The thought did not shout. It whispered. But it was clean. And it was true. I sat that way for a long time, with my hands hovering and my shoulders trembling and my jaw clenched so hard that later I would feel it in my temples. Then, slowly, I highlighted the line. I will send the payment today. Please just let me be there. I pressed delete. The screen went blank again. My breathing evened. When I finally stood, my body felt unsteady, as if I had been holding up a beam for too long and had just stepped out from under it. By noon, I knew what I had to do. I told Ben I needed a long lunch. He nodded, no questions. I took my coat, my bag, and walked out into the late morning light. Downtown Portland always smells faintly like rain, even when it is not raining. I crossed 2 blocks to First Cascade Bank, the branch I have used for over a decade. The glass doors opened with a soft mechanical sigh. The air inside was cool and smelled like carpet cleaner and printer toner. Miguel Ramirez looked up from his desk the instant I stepped in. Miguel has seen every version of me. The version who set up college funds with trembling hands. The version who asked about refinancing after my husband died, and I did not know how I would keep the house. The version who came in to discuss retirement numbers and pretended not to panic when the numbers did not feel like enough. Helen, he said, standing at once. Of course, come sit. What can I do for you today? His politeness almost undid me more than Rachel's email. I sat. I placed my purse on the floor. I folded my hands in my lap so he would not see them shake. I need to cancel a wire transfer, I said. He hesitated. All right. Which one? The wedding venue in Napa. The 50,000. Miguel tapped a few keys, squinted at the screen, then nodded. It is not released yet. You are just in time, he looked back at me. His expression softened. Are you sure? There may be a fee for reversal. Yes, I said. My voice surprised me. It sounded calm. I am sure. But Miguel, yes, I am not doing this to punish her. I heard myself say it and realized it was true. I am doing this because I am starting to understand that I am not invited to this wedding. Not really. Not as a mother, only as a checkbook. And I cannot keep pretending that feels like love. Miguel watched me for a long breath. He nodded, understood. He turned the monitor toward me. If you can sign here, I will void the transfer. The form on the screen asked, Are you sure you wish to revoke this authorization? I took the pen. I signed my name, Helen Reynolds. There it was, clean and final. Miguel clicked, and with that single motion, $50,000 that was supposed to leave me was pulled back to me instead. I exhaled. I did not realize until that moment that I had been holding my breath for hours, maybe days, maybe years. When I stepped back out onto the sidewalk, the air felt different, sharper, colder, honest. For the first time since Rachel's email, I did not feel like I was drowning. I felt like I was standing on something solid. It was not joy. It was not relief. It was something quieter and more dangerous. It was the beginning of a boundary. My phone rang in my bag. I almost ignored it. I assumed it was Rachel, or Evan, or Ethan, but the number was unfamiliar. A local number, but not one I recognized. I answered. Hello? A woman's voice, smooth and controlled, came through the line. Mrs. Reynolds, she said. This is Dana Preston, Ethan's mother. I stopped walking. Traffic moved around me, slow and heavy. Somewhere nearby, a bus released its brakes with a long hiss. A cyclist passed, muttering under his breath when I froze in his path. I did not hear him. All I heard was her. I believe, Dana said, her tone precise and polite like a folded napkin, that you and I should talk. I felt my hand tighten around the phone until my knuckles ached. In that moment, on that sidewalk, with the bank door still closing behind me, I understood. This was no longer only about my daughter and me. This was about power. The restaurant was the kind of place that believed silence was luxury. Low ceilings, soft music, white linen that looked pressed between clouds. The glass walls overlooked the river, and every table was already half full of people who looked like they never worried about bills or deadlines. I arrived exactly at 1 o'clock. Dana Preston was already there. She rose when she saw me, smiling the way people smile when they are being polite, not kind. A single strand of pearls rested at her throat. Her nails were the same color as the wine in her glass. "Helen," she said, extending her hand. "Thank you for meeting me on such short notice." Her voice was even, smooth, the kind that carries across a room without ever needing to rise. I sat down. "You wanted to talk." She nodded to the waiter, who appeared almost immediately. "Sparkling water for my guest," she said before I could answer. The gesture looked generous. It was not. It was a reminder that she gave the orders here. When the waiter left, she folded her hands on the table. "I think there has been some misunderstanding," she began. "Ethan and Rachel are both under a great deal of stress. Planning a wedding is complicated. Expectations are high. I am aware," I said. She gave a delicate laugh. "Of course you are. You have been very helpful financially, and we appreciate that more than you know. But I wanted to reach out personally before things become uncomfortable for everyone." That word again. Uncomfortable. She continued, still smiling. "The truth is, appearances matter. It is not about who paid for what. It is about the image that a family presents. Certain guests might not—" She paused, choosing her words like glass ornaments. "Fit the setting." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then I asked quietly, "You mean people like me?" Her smile did not waver. "Please, let us not make this emotional. Rachel's future depends on this impression. A wedding is not only a celebration. It is an introduction to a new circle. A new circle." I watched her reach for her napkin, fold it neatly in her lap, as if she had just offered me something generous instead of cruel. "You are worried," I said, "that I will not look like I belong." Dana's tone softened, as if she were speaking to a child. "You have to admit, our worlds are different. That is not a judgment. It is simply reality. Our worlds are different." I thought about the years I had spent making sure Rachel could walk into any world she wanted. The extra hours, the skipped vacations, the way I had hidden the overdue bills so the children could believe we were safe. I thought about how many times I had told Rachel, "You will never have to feel small." Now Dana Preston was telling me very gently that I was the one who needed to stay small. I set my hands on the table, palms flat. "Tell me something, Mrs. Preston. When my daughter walks down that aisle, do you imagine people will see her as your family or mine?" She blinked. "I am not sure I understand the question." "You do," I said. "You just do not like the answer." I stood. The waiter began to approach, but I raised one hand, signaling him away. I opened my purse, took out a small envelope of cash, and placed it beside my untouched glass of water. "For the bill," I said. "I would not want anyone to think I cannot afford lunch." Her expression flickered, just for a heartbeat, before the mask returned. I left without looking back. When I got home that evening, the sky was turning the color of wet steel. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. I hung up my coat, set down my bag, and stood there in the hallway, staring at the framed photo of Rachel and Evan as children. They were covered in sand, laughing, sunlight caught in their hair. I could almost smell the salt air from that long-ago summer. The phone rang. "Mom." Evan's voice, sharp, uneasy. "Hi, sweetheart," I said, already bracing. Rachel's crying. "Ethan's parents are furious. She says you canceled everything." "They canceled me first," I replied. "Mom, this is not a competition. I did not make it one." He exhaled hard into the phone. "You could have handled this differently. You did not have to embarrass her. You always push too hard." For a second, I could not speak. It was not the accusation itself. It was the word, always. It reached back through decades of silence and small sacrifices and made them sound like mistakes. "Maybe," I said slowly, "I should have pushed less. Maybe if I had, you would both know what respect looks like." "Mom," I cut him off. "Evan, I am not angry at your sister. I am done being useful only when there is a crisis. That is not anger. That is clarity." He was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice had softened. "She thinks you do not love her anymore." I closed my eyes. "I do, but love without dignity is just servitude. Tell her I love her enough to stop being her servant." He did not answer. I heard him breathe. Then the line went dead. The sound of the dial tone filled the room for several seconds before I hung up. Later, I sat at the desk in the living room. The screen of my laptop glowed faintly in the dark. An unread message from Rachel waited in my inbox. The first few lines showed in the preview, "Mom, please, we can fix this. I will talk to them. Just send the payment first." I hovered the cursor over it but did not open it. Instead, I moved to the drawer beside me and pulled out a wooden box. Inside were the invitations I had ordered months ago, the one with embossed gold lettering, a photograph from the engagement party, Rachel and Ethan holding hands under fairy lights, a small pressed flower I had kept from the bouquet she had shown me when she was a child, saying, "I want these at my wedding someday." I placed everything back into the box. My hands trembled as I closed the lid. The sound of the latch clicking shut was small, but it felt final. I sat there, staring at the closed box under the soft lamplight. The air in the room felt heavy, yet still. Maybe this is the first thing I keep for myself. The thought came quietly, but it had the weight of truth. For years, I had given pieces of myself away time. Money, pride, sleep believing that love required it. Now, for the first time, I kept one piece, and it did not feel cruel. It felt sacred. I turned off the lamp. The house sank into darkness. Then, somewhere behind me, the doorbell rang. A sharp, hesitant sound, followed by silence. I waited. It rang again, softer this time. I stood, crossed the floor, and opened the door. A young woman stood on the porch, her hands clasped together, her coat damp from the evening mist. Her eyes were wide, uncertain. "Mrs. Reynolds," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I am sorry to come without calling." "It is Sophie Hart." The name hit me like a wave. Rachel's best friend since childhood. The girl who used to sleep on our couch during study breaks, who called me Aunt Helen. I looked at her for a long moment, unable to speak. Her expression was pleading. "Please, may I come in?" The cold air from outside rushed past me as I stepped aside. "Of course," I said quietly. She walked in, the sound of her footsteps soft on the wooden floor. When I closed the door behind her, the click of the lock sounded louder than I expected, like the end of something, or the beginning of what would come next. Sophie sat on the edge of my couch like someone afraid to break something sacred. She had always been small, even as a teenager. I remembered her as a thin figure in one of my old sweaters, curled up at the end of our sofa with a blanket and a biology textbook, falling asleep during finals week while Rachel painted her nails for her. Now she was a woman, but she carried herself like a girl who had come to say something that would hurt. Her coat was still damp from the mist outside. She kept smoothing the sleeves, as if she needed her hands to stay busy, as if she did not trust her own voice yet. "Thank you for letting me in," she said quietly. I nodded and set a mug of tea in front of her. "Do you take honey?" "Yes, please, thank you." Her politeness made me ache. It sounded like apology. We sat across from each other in the soft yellow light of my living room. The rest of the house was dark. The box of wedding things sat closed on the table between us, like a silent presence neither of us wanted to acknowledge, but neither of us could ignore. For a time, Sophie only looked at that box. When she finally spoke, her voice had a tremor. "Rachel is a mess," she said. I held her gaze. "I guessed. She has been crying since this afternoon. Ethan is angry. His parents are worse. They called off the original venue. The florist dropped them. The caterer said he will not hold the date without payment. Everything is falling apart." Her throat worked around the next words. "She does not know what to do." I felt a slow, deep breath move through me. "Good," I said softly. Sophie looked startled. I leaned forward, not unkind, only honest. For the first time in her adult life, she does not know what to do, and she cannot fix it by calling me. "That is good," Sophie swallowed. "Mrs. Reynolds, Helen," I corrected. She nodded. Her voice lowered. "Helen. She's scared. She told me she did not think you would actually do it. She said, my mother would never pull out. She needs to be there." She kept saying that. Not, I want her there, but she needs to be there. I looked down at my hands. That, somehow, hurt more than the email. Need is not love. Need is a chain. I folded my hands together so she would not see them shake. She thinks you stopped loving her, Sophie whispered. I closed my eyes. For a moment, I could not speak. When I did, my voice came out low and steady. No, I did not stop loving her. I stopped funding my own humiliation. Sophie stared at me, and then, to my surprise, she let out a soft, unsteady breath that sounded almost like relief. Her shoulders dropped. She nodded, as if she had been waiting for that sentence and could finally set it down. She looked at me in a different way then. Not as Rachel's mother, as a woman. She told me something else, Sophie said, more quietly now. She said she was embarrassed that night. At the dinner, she said you made her feel small in front of Ethan's parents. She said you looked down on them. The words landed between us like a piece of glass. I felt my jaw tighten. My first instinct was defense. I wanted to say, they looked down on me first. I wanted to say, they spoke to me like I was something they had stepped over. I wanted to say, I have a right to protect my own dignity. Instead, I sat with it. I replayed the dinner in my mind. The white tablecloth, the pearls, the way Dana Preston had said, classy venues deserve classy guests, and smiled like that was kindness. I remembered my own voice edged like a blade. I heard myself say, it must be nice to be able to afford a Napa Valley wedding. I had told myself I said it to defend Rachel. If I'm honest, I also said it to wound. Pride speaks louder than love. I exhaled. I did embarrass her, I said finally. Sophie looked up. I did, I repeated. I walked into that room with my back already against the wall. I swung first. I did not want them to make me feel small, so I made them feel shallow. I told myself I was defending my daughter, but I was also defending my own pride. I did not want them to think we were less. I wanted them to know I could see through them. Saying it out loud felt like pressing on a bruise. Sophie nodded slowly. Her eyes shone. She thinks you hate them. I do not hate them, I said. I hate what they taught her to believe about me. For a long moment we sat without speaking. Then Sophie whispered, she keeps asking if you will still come. My chest tightened. Rachel told me not to be there. She said that because Ethan's mother said it first, Sophie replied. She repeated it because she thought that was how you play along and get approval. She thought that is how you move up. She did not understand what it sounds like to a mother. I felt heat rise behind my eyes. No one had said it that clearly yet. Sophie leaned closer. Helen, she is not asking for the money anymore. She is asking for you. But she does not know how to say it without sounding like the people who hurt you. That was the moment I felt something in me begin to loosen. Not forgive, not forget. Something else. A small slackening of a knot that had been pulled too tight. I reached across the table and covered Sophie's hand with mine. Tell her this, I said. Tell her I love her. Tell her I always will. Tell her I am not punishing her. Tell her I am protecting what is left of me. Tell her that if the price of being in her life is to sit quietly in the corner and be grateful to be allowed in the room, I will not pay it. Not even for her. Especially not for her. Because that would teach her that love is allowed to humiliate you, and I will not teach her that. Sophie pressed her lips together. She nodded. And Sophie, I added, my voice softer now, tell her this too. Tell her I know I hurt her pride. Tell her I am sorry for that. Tell her maybe we both let pride speak louder than love. Sophie made a small sound, something like a gasp, and wiped her eyes with the heel of her hand. She stayed another 10 minutes. She did not argue. She did not try to sell me a story where everyone hugs and cries and the music swells. She only listened. She only nodded. When she finally stood to leave, she leaned forward and hugged me. Not politely, fully, like a daughter. I used to wish my mother fought for me the way you fight for Rachel, she whispered against my shoulder. I just thought you should know that. When the door closed behind her, the house felt very quiet. But it did not feel empty. It felt honest. The wedding did not happen the way it was supposed to. There was no Napa Valley estate, no sweeping vineyard, no curated floral arch that cost more than a semester of college. 2 days after Sophie came to see me, Rachel and Ethan were married in the Prestons' backyard behind their suburban home. Someone had strung white lights from the fence. There were folding chairs. There were maybe 14 people there. His parents, his uncle, 2 co-workers. Evan. I was not invited. This time, I did not wait for the invitation. I woke up that morning, made coffee, and sat by the kitchen window. The sun was soft and pale. I watched a line of ants moving along the porch railing and tried to decide if what I felt was grief, or relief, or something that did not have a clean name. Later that afternoon, Evan sent me a photo from his phone. Rachel in a simple white dress, hair pinned back, holding a bouquet that looked like it had come from the grocery store on the corner. Ethan behind her, his hands on her shoulders a little too tight. Rachel's smile was small and tired. Her eyes were swollen. I studied her face. She looked like a child who had stayed awake all night. I set the phone down. I lifted my cup. I drank my coffee slowly. My hands were steady. I did not cry. What I felt was not victory. It was not now you know what it is like without me. It was quieter than that. It was the silence that comes after a storm passes. The world is still wet. Branches are still on the ground. But the sky is clear. That night, after the backyard ceremony that did not need me, an email arrived in my inbox. This time there was a subject line. Subject, I am trying. I sat very still before I opened it. Mom, I do not know how to begin this, so I am just going to say what I can. I am angry at you. I am hurt. I felt like you pulled the ground out from under me on purpose. But I also know I hurt you first. I told you not to come. I said it like it was nothing. I said it like you were extra. I said it because Ethan's parents told me, we cannot have drama that day, and I was scared to lose their approval. I did not stop to think about what I was asking you to accept. When you made that comment at dinner, when you said, it must be nice to afford a Napa Valley wedding, I felt like you made me small in front of them. I felt like you were showing them you did not respect them, and by extension, you did not respect me. I am telling you this because I need you to understand the place I was standing in. I know they talk down to you. I know they do. I heard it. I pretended I did not because it was easier to pretend. I am sorry for that. I do not know how to fix this. I do not know how to make you feel wanted and not just needed. I do not know how to undo what has already been said. I am trying. Rachel. I read it once. I read it twice. I felt my throat tighten, not because it fixed anything, but because it did not try to wrap the wound in ribbon. It did not say, let us forget this ever happened. It did not say, you were wrong and I was right. It said only, I am trying. That was the most honest thing she had given me in months. I hovered the cursor over reply. For a long time, I did not move. Then slowly I exhaled. I closed the message. I did not delete it. Instead, I clicked archive. Some things are better left unread twice. 3 weeks later, I sat at a long table in a ceramic studio on the east side of town. The room smelled like clay and warm dust. Afternoon light fell through the high windows in pale sheets. Soft music played from an old speaker in the corner. In front of me was a simple vessel I had been shaping for days. The first time I tried to lift it, a crack split down one side. The instructor had smiled and said, do not throw it out. We repair the cracks with gold. It is called kintsugi. It is part of the story. Now, under the patient guidance of her hands, I was filling that thin fracture with a line of powdered gold and resin. The seam did not disappear. It glowed. I turned the piece slowly in my hands. The repaired line caught the light. It was beautiful, not because the break was hidden, but because the break was confessed. They say the cracks tell the story of survival. I am not hiding mine anymore. I breathed in. I let my shoulders soften. For the first time in a very long time, I was not bracing for a demand. I was not rehearsing an apology. I was not calculating what I needed to give up in order to be allowed near someone I loved. I was, very simply, inhabiting my own life. If you have ever had to choose between peace and being loved, I hope you will tell me your story. maybe we will heal together. There are moments in life when silence becomes the loudest truth we can speak. For Helen Reynolds, it was not a single act of defiance that changed everything. It was the quiet refusal to keep apologizing for existing, to stand still, look at the life she had built for everyone else, and finally whisper, "Enough." We are taught, especially as women, that love is measured by how much we give, how much we endure, how quickly we say yes when the world takes. But what if love is also knowing when to stop burning yourself just to keep others warm? What if peace begins not with surrender, but with the decision to stop negotiating your worth? Helen's story is not one of revenge, it is one of awakening, of realizing that sometimes the people we raise, the people we sacrifice for, must watch us walk away to understand what it cost us to stay. She did not win by shouting. She won by standing still, by letting the noise collapse on itself until only truth remained. And maybe that is the quiet revolution we all need, to choose boundaries without bitterness, to let go without apology, to love others deeply but never at the expense of our own dignity. Because there is a kind of love that heals, and a kind that slowly erases you. The difference lies in the moment you decide that your own peace is also worth protecting. If Helen's journey has reached a part of you, perhaps the part that has been tired, unheard, or stretched thin, pause here for a moment. Ask yourself, when was the last time you chose yourself without guilt? Tell me in the comments below. Share the moment you decided to stop being an afterthought in your own life. Your story might be the echo someone else needs to find courage in their silence. And if you believe that stories like this matter, stories that remind us to reclaim our voices and our worth, stay with this channel. There will be more stories, more lives rediscovered in the quiet corners where love and strength learn to coexist. Because sometimes the most powerful kind of love is not the one that saves others, it is the one that finally saves you.